I'm back. Okay, I don't know if that sounded creepy or not. Either way, just in time for spooky season. I know that I have been gone for a while. I think the last episode I posted was way back in April. So that's, 6 months now? Geez, I didn't even realize it'd been that long. But I'm back and I'm very excited to be recording. And I think it's very fitting that we're doing it on the very first week of October, that this episode is being released, because I love October. Halloween is my favorite holiday. In fact, as I'm recording this episode, my house is just strewn with Halloween decorations. I'm starting to put them up. I started last night, got tired, went to bed, so I'm going to finish them after I finish editing this episode. But essentially, I was just going through a lot. The reason that I took a hiatus is because I just needed a break. So I did that, but I'm back and I am feeling better than ever. So before we dive into this episode, I just wanted to make that one point there, is that it is okay to take a break when you need a break, even when other people's expectations say otherwise. Because if you're not able to actually show up in a way that you're proud of, then it's not going to be helpful for anybody involved. We live in a culture that is all about go, 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 do, achieve, and it's really just not sustainable long term. So when you start to hit that burnout point, it's really important to take a break. So you have my full permission to do so if that's what you needed to hear. And what I did was I really just slowed down when it came to everything. I kind of just focused on the things that I needed to do instead of all the extra stuff that I had piled on, and it really brought back my focus really well. So I was able to refocus on what I really want out of my life, what I want to create for my life, which was awesome. And I've been able to refocus on what exactly makes me happy, what I get joy from, and things that I want to avoid, or really just what my boundaries are. So I think that was a really helpful and really healthy thing for me to do. And if you're feeling that kind of same way, then it's okay to slow down. Obviously, there's going to be some things in life that you can't get rid of. You are still going to need to be able to provide for yourself. If you have kids, take care of your kids. If you have pets, take care of your pets. Whatever it is, there's certain things that you're still going to have to do, and probably you'll still get joy from doing, but it's okay to slow down and take a break and step back from things for a while if you need to. So that is it for that point there. I'm so happy to be back. So excited to be doing this again. I've missed doing it. I'm very excited to actually be recording this episode right now. I can't stop smiling about it. And so we're going to get into it. This episode is all about healing from heartbreak, which my very first episode is definitely worth a listen. This is kind of a part 2 to that episode, I would say, because I recorded that episode pretty quickly after I went through a breakup, and it was a really hard breakup. I won't go through the whole story because that's what that episode is. It's the whole story and what I was doing to help myself move on and heal to begin with. But as I've gone through the months, I've realized that healing comes in so many different ways, and it can be such a process sometimes, because I'm sure you've heard this cliche, but healing comes in layers, and it really truly does. Some days it'll be really good, some days it'll be really bad, some days it'll be really hard, some days all you want to do is just sit there and cry. Other days you don't even think about the heartbreak that you were feeling so painfully yesterday. And so it's been a whole process. And so I wanted to share some of my insights that I've had now that I've gone through this process a little bit deeper. And hopefully that is helpful for you all out there going through the same thing. Hi everyone! Life can get a little crazy, so let's talk about it. If you're ready to dive deeper, talk about what really matters, and feel a little more empowered, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Carley Doxtator. I'm a life coach, baker, dog mom of 2, and you're always there for you gal pal. And I'm so excited to have you join me. So grab your fuzzy socks, put on your comfy pants, and let's have girls' night. getting into the episode, just a little background for y'all. I know I mentioned this in the intro, but I'm going to be talking more about healing from heartbreak. And to get the full story, go ahead, listen to my first episode. But basically, I was seeing this guy on and off for a very, very long time. And the heartbreak part of it, it's been one of the, I mean, I've never been a person that really took breakups too harshly, if I'm going to be honest. I've always been able to feel my emotions, feel the sadness, feel whatever I needed to feel, and move on pretty quickly. But this one was just different. And perhaps that's because he had and still has such a big place in my heart. And we've been such a big part of each other's lives for such a long time that I think it just hit me a little bit harder. And really, if I'm being honest with y'all, I completely lost myself in the sense of who I was as a person, what I liked, what I didn't like, what I enjoyed doing or not. I completely lost all of that within this relationship towards the end. And that's not to say that he's to blame. It's not to say that it's really I'm to blame, because it was a lack of boundaries. But it was the dynamic between the two of us towards the end that really wasn't the best. We just weren't playing off of each other in the best way. But it's been one of those heartbreaks that has just taken a lot for me to heal. And I've dove a lot deeper into my healing and into my past and into my patterns than I have with any past breakup. That's a really good thing, because before you can move from person to person and it's fine and it's great and you can move on. But if you don't address the underlying issues, then the same thing's going to keep happening in whatever relationship you're in, because you're not addressing your underlying insecurities if the same pattern keeps popping up. And that's exactly the place that I've been in, is I've been diving really deep into those, because I'm at a place in my life where I'm sick of wasting my own time. Towards the end of our relationship, there was a lot of game playing, and that's just never what love was meant to be like. Love was never meant to be full of maneuvers and tactics. So my biggest piece of advice to you is to stop trying to win the game and instead just start being yourself, every version of yourself, so that you can find your complement. You can find the one that doesn't complete you, but knows you are already complete on your own and wants to celebrate that. I made the mistake of going online and just looking up all of this relationship advice and looking at those stupid websites, which there is some good relationship advice out there. But if you're just Googling why this, why that, you're bound to come across some websites that are basically just telling you to play games with someone, and that is not healthy. That's not healthy for you to do. It's not healthy for them either, because when you're playing games, you're not showing up as your authentic self. And when you're doing that, in the end, nothing good is bound to happen from that, because even if you do get a relationship out of it, it was out of a false context, basically, because you weren't actually showing up as you, and eventually it's going to get really tiring to not be you all the time. So that is the biggest thing to keep in mind. Just don't play games. Just be honest about what you want. And I know that's really scary, because that involves being vulnerable with your feelings, and it involves risking rejection. But that is so much braver than showing up as someone you aren't and trying to trick somebody into liking you or trick somebody into being in a relationship with you. So a little bit of story time right now. This ex that I referenced at the beginning, he came into my work, which I've been working just at a bar/restaurant downtown. And he came in and he was with another girl. And if you've ever been in that scenario, which I'm sure at least some of you have, it's not fun. It's not a fun situation. It was the first time we had seen each other since everything happened. It's the first time we had talked even in forever. And then, so not only did it happen once, and then it happened again the next weekend where he came in with a girl again. And so it was 2 weekends of me just being like, fuck, man, I don't want to see this. And it brought up a lot of emotions inside of me that I was still feeling. A lot of anger, a lot of jealousy, a lot of all those feelings, all those thoughts of oh, she's so beautiful. She seems so confident. She looks so skinny, blah, 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 blah. all those thoughts started going off in my head. But then I realized those situations happen for me to help heal a little bit deeper into this, because if I was truly healed, then it would not have affected me as much as it did. I could have been sad, but I was like extra sad and like extra angry when it happened. But I sat with my emotions with it, and I finally realized that there is no competing when it comes to love. And yeah, sure, you can look at the outside of what a situation is or what a relationship is and make all of these assumptions like I was doing. But truth be told, you have no idea what is actually going on under the surface. And to be quite frank, like, I don't even know if they're dating. I don't know if they're just friends, because it was, after all, like a group of friends. I was just making all these worst case scenario assumptions in my head. But that's the trap that is so easy to fall in, is comparing yourself to other people and trying to compete with them. There is no competing when it comes to love. There is just being. Because if you are sitting there comparing yourself to your ex's new girl or your ex's new guy, or however well he's doing or however well she's doing, that's not a good place to be in, because they can never be you and you can never be them either. They will never have your heart. They will never have your soul. They will never have your laugh or your smile or those weird things that you do when you wake up in the morning. Maybe you're sitting here thinking all those thoughts that get to us every once in a while, but they're so beautiful, or they're so funny, they're so confident, they're so successful, or whatever it is. That's really just pointing to something in you that you know that you want for your life. So rather than just sitting there lamenting and being sad and being angry at them about being who they are and being this honestly amazing person, if that's what you're worried about, focus on creating those qualities and fostering those qualities in yourself, because those are all buried deep within you if you don't feel them right now. You just have to let them see a little bit of light. And plus, at the end of the day, none of that really matters if they're beautiful or they're smart or they're funny or they're confident, because what you bring to the table is so completely unique, because that person that you're comparing yourself to, they can never be you. They never can be. And you can never be them either, no matter how hard they try. All right, on to the next point. One of the other big lessons that I've learned is that you can't love somebody into being ready for something that they're not ready for. And I say this in the context of, if they are not doing the inner work to be ready, then no amount of love that you give is ever going to be enough. So of course the exception is that if they are doing the work, if they're doing the self-reflection and the inner exploration, your love and your patience will help them along in the process, but the change and the work hinges on them. And a lot of us really get caught up in this trap of thinking like, oh, if only I loved them more, or if I did this better, or if I just showed up perfectly, which is not realistic, because perfect is not a thing, especially in the context of relationships, then maybe it would be better. Maybe this relationship would be better. Maybe I would be happier, but that's not the case, because you can't make somebody else happy for them. That work has to be done internally for themselves. So if you're in one of those situations where you love this person so much, but your relationship is stagnating, you've done everything that you can do to try to help it, you've communicated with them about how you're feeling, and things still aren't changing, then maybe that's the time that you take a step back and you start exploring the reasons why you have to cling on so tightly to this specific relationship, and why it's not working, and how you yourself are contributing to it. Because if you're staying with a person that isn't showing up for you and refuses to even try to show up for you, I mean, that's just as much on you as it is on them. And that's something that I struggled with a lot, because for me, based on the relationship dynamics that I saw growing up, which we can get into my childhood at a later time, because there's a lot there. But for me, when you love somebody, you fight for them. And I took that to an extreme point where I stopped fighting for myself. Abandoning yourself for the sake of saving someone else is never going to end well. And I can say that from personal experience because, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I completely lost who I was in this relationship because of those things, because I stopped standing up for myself and because I was willing to sacrifice anything to get him and to keep him around and to get him to commit to me. And it just, I mean, obviously it didn't work out, you know? And so I made it a lot harder for me on the back end too. And I took all of that super personally. Like there was something wrong with who I was. Like at the very core of my being, like I really felt like there was something wrong with who I was. And when you get to that point, it's really hard to get out of it. You can get out of it. I'm proof of that. But it's just a lot harder when you get to the point where you are blaming yourself for every single little mistake and every single little thing that's going wrong within the relationship. And you just wish that you were better and you think that it would make everything better. It's not, because it's not an issue about who you are. It's just there's a disconnect in the dynamic between the two of you. So I've had this breakthrough where if people aren't showing up for me, if they are emotionally unavailable for me, I don't take it personally anymore and I don't get offended by it anymore. I just accept it for what it is and I move on. I don't cling to it like my life depends on it. And I don't just mean that for romantic relationships either. I mean it for friendships, for coworkers, acquaintances, managers even. I've finally realized that their mood, their attitude is not mine to fix. And that might sound simple to some of y'all, but for me that was like, oh man, that was like the biggest breakthrough I've had. Because I have always put it on myself to keep everybody around me happy, to try to keep the peace, to keep the waters calm as much as I could. And I finally saw that pattern and I was finally able to fix it. It's like one day I just saw it, you know? And also their opinion of me isn't my problem. If someone is going to be rude or non-responsive towards you, that's on them. It's literally the most freeing mindset shift that I have had. And it's something that I have kept practicing. Ever since I had that breakthrough, I keep practicing it. And there are moments where I start to fall back into the people pleasing, back into the, why are they mad at me? Why don't they like me? Did I do something wrong? That whole spiral. I've caught myself in those moments, but when I do, I remind myself that their mood isn't mine to fix. Their mood is theirs and my mood is mine. And I also remind myself that if they don't like me, that is okay, because the important people, the people that are actually meant to be in my life, do like me. And in fact, they really fucking love me. And I would way rather have just a few people that really fucking love and adore me as opposed to a bunch of people that are kind of like lukewarm about me. Because those relationships with those people that actually really love you for who you are, those relationships are easy. They feel so easy. I mean, you can feel it in your body when someone is meant for you, and you can feel it in your body when they're not. It's just a matter of accepting what you already know to be true. So taking this back to more of a romantic relationship context, taking those takeaways, at the end of the day, nobody owes you anything. And I remember somebody actually said this to me once when I was asking for advice, and I was so taken aback by her saying that to me. I was like kind of offended. I was like, of course he owes me something. But I just think back on it because now I'm in the same place where I'm like, no, like nobody owes you anything. And even though they love you, that doesn't mean they have to date you, because there are so many things, way more things than just our feelings of love, that go into having a successful relationship. I mean, there are so many people that love other people so much, and they're just so scared of commitment that they just can't do it. Even if they can in the future, at that moment, they just can't, no matter how much they love the person. And it's sad to think about it, but it's true. So if you're in that situation, don't take it as oh, they must hate me, or oh, they're using me, or oh, whatever. Like, really look at it as them just being a person. And even if they do love you, there's probably something else going on, because there are so many reasons a person could choose not to be with you, or that they could choose to be with somebody else. And that has nothing to do with your value or your inherent worth at all, not at all. And I really think that there's a really toxic narrative around that says, well, if they really loved you, if they actually loved you, then they would have chosen you. And that's just so completely false. I know it's really easy to take it personally when someone doesn't choose you, but in most circumstances, it's not personal. So stop beating yourself up, stop asking why you weren't good enough, and focus on the fact that, yeah, I loved them. I still love them. They loved me, and they still probably love me too. But they are allowed to date whoever they want to. And at the end of the day, if you really loved them, wouldn't you want them to be happy too? This came full circle for me, that point did, when I was actually at the Millennium Trilogy concert earlier this summer at the Broncos Stadium. Whoop, whoop. It was so good. If anybody was out there, I would love to hear your stories because it was amazing. But I had this moment at that concert where I thought, word for word, oh my God, what if he's happier without me? And in an instant, even though I was having so much fun with my friends there, I felt so panicky on the inside just at that one thought. But then following up immediately after that, my inner voice was like, then I want that for him. Then I want him to be happy. If he's happier without me, then I want him to be happier without me. And I want that for him without me interfering with it. And I want that for me too, because if they are happier without you, then you, even if it doesn't feel like it right now, are going to be happier without them too. You just have to let yourself venture there to begin with. And on your healing journey, whether it's a romantic relationship or not, whether you're healing from something else, there's probably going to be a time that you look back on your past and you see all the ways that people treated you badly, and you see all the ways that people mistreated you, and you're going to get really angry. You're going to get angry at those people for the way that they treated you, and then you're going to get angry at yourself for letting it happen. And this is something that actually a friend and I were talking about the other day, because it's something that I've gone through. It's something that she's working with right now, because it just kind of sucks to look back and you're like, wow, I can't believe I let that happen to me. And that's honestly, it feels really shitty to look back and to see it and to feel that angry. But it is such a good thing because you're looking back and you're actually seeing it now, where before you didn't even see it. And the same is true for the reverse. When you're healing, you're also going to see all the ways that you've hurt other people, and you're going to feel remorseful about it, and you're going to be angry at yourself for that too. And that's also a sign of healing because you're finally able to see it. The trick here is to not get stuck in it, is to not shame yourself, is to accept it for what it is and to do better. So that said, looking back on this relationship with him, I spent so much time blaming him for everything, for every little thing that went wrong, just thinking that I was showing up so perfectly, which I wasn't. I really, truly wasn't. And I realized I wasn't even being a good friend to him because I wasn't actually even being honest with him. And I thought I was doing it to protect his feelings, but I was really doing it just to protect myself. And that was like a huge realization for me, to see that I was doing it for myself rather than for him. And I had to come to terms with that. But it was a double standard, I wanted honesty from him, but I wasn't even giving it myself. And I don't want my friends or anybody placating me with a lie or a fib or by stretching the truth. I want my friends, I want my partner to be completely honest with me, even if it hurts my feelings a little bit, and especially if it's calling me out on my shitty behavior. And that was my expectation of him, but I wasn't doing the same in return. And honesty is the basis of every solid relationship. So I was undermining the trust we had with each other completely. I was completely undermining it in the name of keeping the peace or in the name of protecting him. But protecting somebody from the truth isn't really protecting them. It's just prolonging the inevitable. And I look back on all that time we spent together, and I see so many opportunities I had to bring up something that was hurting me or that was clearly causing damage between the two of us. And I just didn't, because I was so scared of either the relationship ending, of him getting mad at me. Him getting mad at me was like a big thing, and I realized how that stems from my childhood also. But I was using it as an excuse. And if I had spoken up in those moments, we had such an opportunity to deepen our trust and to strengthen our relationship through those conversations that we just didn't have. And those conversations, the ones that feel the scariest, are the ones that are going to move your relationship forward. And if you don't have those conversations, that's when you almost guarantee keeping your relationship and your connection at a superficial level. So all those times I didn't bring up what I wanted to bring up, or I didn't have the conversation we needed to have, I wasn't choosing him, I wasn't choosing us or the relationship, I wasn't even choosing myself at that point, I was just choosing fear. So the main takeaway here is that no matter how scary it feels, you have to have those conversations. You have to be committed to honesty and to your authenticity, because if you aren't doing those things, you are setting yourself and the relationship up for failure from the very beginning. And to be quite honest, the scarier the conversation feels, the more important it is to have. And the last point that I want to make is that every heartbreak, every relationship gets you one step closer to the relationship that you do want. And it always teaches you something about what you want and what you don't want. So for example, I was actually seeing a new guy for like a month and a half recently. That ended, but it was like an almost relationship, let's say. So we were seeing each other for about a month and a half, and he was great. I mean, during the relationship, during our time together, he treated me like a queen. I mean, he treated me really well when we were spending time together, even when we were apart, up until we ended things. He treated me so well. I mean, he was texting me every day throughout the day, which I was not used to. I got sick. He brought me a whole sick kit and spent the time with me when I was sick. He made me dinner. He was taking me out to fancy dinners. We talked and we communicated a lot, and we dove into each other's like backgrounds and like our wants and our needs and everything so deeply, and it felt really comfortable with him. You know, we went really deep really quickly, and I wasn't used to something like that, but it was really, really great. I mean, it felt very safe. So I learned, wow, I really like this type of treatment. I like this type of relationship where things are stable, things are steady, there's communication like all the time, not constantly, but consistent. We're talking about each other's past. We're talking about just all of it. That's what I want in a relationship. By no means was it perfect. There were some things that were off, but it did help me to set a new higher standard for how I deserve to be treated within a relationship. And I will always be grateful to him for showing me that. Really, I'm grateful to both of them. So now I know I really like being with someone that I talk to every day, that talks with me every day, so that makes that effort. And even though this relationship didn't last, and even though it ended kind of badly, I get to look back and see all the amazing and all the wonderful moments that made it up to begin with. And the cool thing is I get to hold on to that. So that is my new standard for how I'm treated within a relationship. Not the ending part, obviously, but all the other stuff. That said, I also learned that I want someone that is going to be consistent and stable long term, not just while the passion is there. I learned that I want someone who is really honest with me, because honesty is my biggest moral. I hate lying. I hate when people lie to me. I don't lie to other people. I mean, I've always been this way, and it really bugs me when people lie, especially my partner, the person that I'm seeing, just because it seems so unnecessary to me. And like I mentioned at the beginning, there were times at my last relationship where I wasn't necessarily lying, but like I wasn't being as honest as I could be, you know, which kind of counts as lying. I would just like hide what I was feeling, which, I mean, it's a form of dishonesty. And I learned from that though. Because with this last relationship, with this last guy, I was very honest with him. Not in a mean way, of course, but I was honest nonetheless. And I also really focused on communicating with him. In fact, I kind of focused on over-communicating with him in a sense, because communicating is something that I have struggled with relationships and with my lovers in the past. So I know now that I want someone who is going to communicate everything with me too. I want to be with someone who is willing to communicate their feelings with me and just what's going on in their day and in their past and what they're working through, what they're going through. And someone who's willing to sit there and listen with me too. If I upset you, if I did something or said something that hurt your feelings, then tell me. If you're struggling, tell me. If you're super fucking happy, then tell me. That's what I want. And the fact that I was doing that in this relationship, I was communicating so well and being so honest about how I was feeling and where I was at. That was such a weight lifted off of me. And I think that's a big reason why I was able to feel so safe in such a short amount of time, because I was honoring myself in the process. And there were moments where I caught myself being like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say this. And I did it anyways, because I refuse to fall back into those patterns, into the people pleasing, because it just feels so icky. Once you stop doing it, it feels so icky to abandon yourself just to please somebody else. So that said, I'm very proud of myself for how I showed up in this last relationship. And really, it showed me just how much I truly have healed because of the way I was showing up, just like I said, but also when it ended, it did not, it could have been better. And there's a lot of unanswered questions, but the way that I handled the end, I am so proud of myself for how I handled it. An old version of me would have been sitting there wondering what was wrong with me, begging to get him back, trying to think of ways that I could win him back. And this time I was just like, hey, yeah, I'm sad about it. Yeah, I was getting to a point where I really thought it could be something, but it is what it is. And obviously it wasn't meant to work out for a reason. And I'm going to trust that that reason is going to show itself. So long story short, I have over the past few months finally come face to face with a lot of things that I had been running from for a very long time. And coming face to face with them, I've just been able to release them, and it's the best feeling in the world. So if you're there, if you're in the thick of it, I feel you, sis, because that shit sucks. That shit can get really low sometimes. So if you're there, I'm here with you. I can help you through it, and trust me, when you get to the other side, it is so much better than you could ever think. I think I'm going to end it there. So thanks so much for tuning in again, y'all. I love you so much. I'm going to be posting episodes more frequently now that I'm in my new era. But yeah, love you. See you next week. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you liked what you heard, then go ahead and subscribe so you get updates with us every week. You can also follow us on Instagram at KRC Coaching. If you're interested in working one-on-one, then go ahead and visit our website, krccoaching.com, to book your first 30-minute session for free. All right, thanks so much, you guys. Love you. Bye.